Days away from the Summit of the Future and the opening of the 79th UN General Assembly, Secretary General Antonio Guterres has appealed to member states for a spirit of compromise and show the world what we can do when we work together. The UN chief emphasized the critical role of the Summit of the Future as it was born out of a cold, hard fact. International challenges are moving faster than our ability to solve them. He also stated that many of the challenges the world faces today were not on the radar 80 years ago when the multilateral institution was born. Meanwhile, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu will not be attending the 79th United Nations General Assembly session in New York this year. The president has directed Vice President Shettima to lead the Nigerian delegation. This is contained in a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga. The statement notes that President Tinubu, who returned to the country last Sunday after his trip to China and the United Kingdom, wants to focus on domestic issues and address some of the country's challenges, especially after the recent devastating flooding in Borno State. At UNGA 79, Vice President Shettima will deliver Nigeria's national statement to the General Assembly. He'll also attend important sideline events and hold bilateral meetings. The high-level general debates with the theme, Leaving No One Behind, Acting Together for the Advancement of Peace, Sustainable Development and Human Dignity for Present and Future Generations, will run from Tuesday, September 24 through to Saturday, the 28th. President Tinubu will not be attending the UN General Assembly, but we know who is, and that's political affairs analyst here on Channel Television, Laolu Akonde. He joins us now from New York City, a venue of the UNGA. Laolu, great to see you. How is New York?
Well, very cool, but quite nice.
Yeah, I'm sure the weather is perfect enough for the meetings next week. What is the look and feel at the UNGA ahead of the meetings?
Oh, well, the real meeting is going to be starting sometimes on Sunday with the Summit of the Future. What normally happens at these events is that you have a theme that precedes the general debate, which starts on Tuesday. So for this year, the focus is what is called the Summit of the Future. And they're trying to discuss how multilateralism can be used to advance the causes of peace, international security, sustainable development, human dignity, and all of those stuff. Now, that will start on Sunday. So between Sunday and Monday, you have leaders of delegations, presidents, prime ministers, kings, and others speaking on the Summit of the Future. And there are quite a number of interactive dialogues that will be part of that Summit of the Future. And then on Tuesday, that is when the General Assembly general debate will commence, which is where you have the presidents of all the member nations of the United Nations addressing the General Assembly.
Right, and it is interesting that this year's meetings are taking place in the crucial election year in America. It will be the last UNGA meeting for President Joe Biden. What are some of the conversations you've been hearing about this at the UNGA ahead of the meetings?
Oh, well, it's traditional to have the U.S. president open the general debate. And you are right, this will be the last one that President Joe Biden will be focusing on. As you know, the issue of the representation of presidents or kings at the General Assembly is one that is always up there. I mean, especially now that Nigeria will not be represented by the president. You recall that yesterday, Empowered Newswire, that I also write for, had done an exclusive story to say that the president was skipping the General Assembly this year. And it turns out from the discussions that has been going on here in New York that you have certain presidents like China. The president of China only comes once in 4 years. So while the debate is, presidents should come, there are also presidents who think that they can also spread their time to do other things. So yes, President Biden will be opening the debate on Tuesday. But not all presidents of the world are going to be coming. Our president is not coming. But good thing, the vice president will be here. And the Nigerian delegation is already forming. We have ministers. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has arrived. The Minister of Solid Minerals, Mr. Dele Alaki, has arrived. The Minister for Environment has arrived. And some other Nigerian representatives are already in town. And some of the side events are going to be starting by this weekend. So it's an interesting conversation that's already going on. And it is believed that because of the theme of the summit this year, it might be one of the more important General Assembly summits in recent years.
Yeah, and I think it is important that you mentioned that not all presidents will be there. I think it will be the first time possibly that a Nigerian president will not be attending the UNGA. And it's not because, there are any problems. It's just because he wants to focus on domestic issues back home, a lot of which he must face, the cost of living crisis, as well as the flooding situation in Borno State. Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima is from Borno State. He'll be leading that delegation to the UNGA. What are we expecting, from the meetings that he's expected to have?
Well, so as it is with the protocol, most of those meetings, have already been set for the president. So normally you have a situation where a lot of the head of states would rather want to meet their counterpart head of state. So there might be some changes, except, of course, there are strategic relationships between countries. But if you have a vice president, it's also normally considered that a vice president is as high as president, certainly higher than a prime minister, because a prime minister is only head of government, but a vice president is considered the deputy head of government and the deputy head of state. So, we don't know how things are going to shape out. The vice president also has quite a bit of his own personal gravitas, having been dealing with international agencies while he was governor in Borno State at the time when there was a lot of the issue with Boko Haram and the engagement of UN agencies and other agencies. So Shettima himself is not new to international politics, and many people expect him to be able to step up to the plate.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if some of the issues that you mentioned, he will be highlighting them, at the meetings that he possibly will be scheduled to attend. For example, I mentioned the recent floods in Borno State. I mean, we've seen the pictures, really devastating situation there. And of course, again, the cost of living crisis, and with Nigerians, just impatient, with the government, hoping for something to break through. I mean, how will this be interpreted at the UNGA this year?
Well, to put it very bluntly, international politics will often not get into some of the local domestic issues. And the reason is very simple. All the head of states don't want somebody else, quote unquote, and I'm using this word advisedly, prognosing into their internal affairs, except when they themselves table the issue for discussion. So you are right. If Nigeria is interested in getting international assistance for the flooding in Borno and other states, it's a good opportunity. And in fact, to even have somebody like Shettima, who was governor of Borno, to lead the charge and discuss some of these things. But let me also point out that one of the major issues that will be discussed this year at the general debate is the issue of the reform of the UN Security Council. For the first time, the Americans have said that they are now, they support the idea of having an African country to become a permanent member of the Security Council. So this is one of the more exciting international topics that is expected to be highlighted during the general debate. And people are saying that, well, look, if Africa is going to become permanent members, then Africa should have the veto powers. The US says not so fast. It's okay to join as a permanent member, but they want the veto powers to stay with the five. So the debate is quite exciting. And around New York, we are beginning to pick up some of the hints around this topic.
Yeah, about the African permanent seat and the UN Security Council, I guess they'll have to agree amongst African leaders because I know the Rwandan president has said something about this. He's not in favor of one particular African country. He says, why don't we rotate it around the 53 countries, sorry, the 54 countries we have in Africa? Laolu, you're our eyes and ears on the ground. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much, my sister. Good to see you.